My parents excluded me from their housewarming party. They called it a celebration for their real family. They announced it in a group chat, but I stayed silent. A month later, they came begging for money. I said no, and my father lost control. I learned about their new home through Sarah's Instagram, not from them directly. A series of polished photos flooded my feed. Sarah grinning with our parents outside a freshly sold property, all beaming as if they'd secured a grand mansion. The truth was less glamorous. It was a 2-story home in a cookie-cutter neighborhood named something like Shady Pines or Willow Crest, though no pines or willows grew nearby. I kept quiet. I'd been out of their circle for some time. That's how it goes with families like mine. You grow up thinking there's an unshakable connection, but eventually, you see some people are just roommates by blood. When they move on, distance becomes deliberate. Growing up, Sarah was clearly the favorite. It was blatant. She got a car at 16. I got a sermon about duty. She crashed that car. They replaced it. Once, I asked for bus fare and was labeled selfish. My mother often said Sarah had a glow. That glow led her to chase wealthy men in college, dodge finals, and eventually marry David. Rich, divorced, with a beachfront condo and no kids. My parents treated her engagement like a royal coronation. Meanwhile, I slogged through community college, worked full-time at a shipping depot, and fixed my own car whenever it broke. I never asked for support. Not because I didn't need it, but because I knew it wouldn't come. So when I saw that group chat message, I wasn't shocked. This is a gathering for our real family. One line, sharp as a knife. No details. No names. But I knew it was aimed at me. Others were tagged in pictures or mentioned directly. I wasn't. Sarah, naturally, spammed the chat with photos like she was curating a gallery. Her by the mantel. Her in the dining room with a cocktail. Her in the garage with our father. Each caption stung more than the last. So grateful. New chapter. This is how it's supposed to be. I didn't reply. I just observed. And smirked. Not out loud. Just that quiet, bitter smirk when someone goes out of their way to shun you and thinks they've triumphed. That night, my grandmother called. She rarely steps in unless it's critical. Sharp as ever, living alone at 83. She still drives and keeps a notebook of anniversaries, wary of smartphone apps. She didn't ask about my feelings. She just said, I saw their message. They think Sarah's a success because she married money. But true success is what you earn, not what you latch onto. I didn't disagree. I never do with her. She's the only one who never treated me like an afterthought. What they didn't know, not even Sarah, was that I was thriving. I kept it private. I ran a side hustle fixing vintage audio equipment. Over the past year, it had out-earned my day job. I was finally banking real savings. No boasts. No posts. Just consistent effort. So when they held their real family party without me, I let them. Let them clink glasses, pose, and share their curated moments. The irony? A month later, my parents showed up at my apartment. Not to apologize. Not to share stories. Or say they missed me. They were broke. And they needed cash. That's when things got strange. Really strange. It was a Sunday afternoon when they appeared. I almost didn't open the door. I just returned from restoring a vintage radio for a local cafe owner and was wiped out. Then I saw my father's face through the peephole. Something in me tensed. I opened the door cautiously. There they stood. My mother in heavy makeup, like she was attending a gala. My father with that fake grin he used at school meetings to hide his frustration. They skipped greetings. No, how are you? My mother got to the point. We're in a tight spot. I knew what was coming. The house they'd bragged about wasn't fully theirs. They'd scraped together the down payment, counting on promised help from Sarah and David that never came. David had lost money in a bad investment. Sarah had no legal obligation to help. Typical. They'd also remortgaged their old house. Burned through their savings on frivolous upgrades. Designer fixtures. A fancy countertop. A useless wine cooler. Now they were buried in debt with a skyrocketing mortgage. Then the final blow. My father lost his job. His company had been downsizing for months. He either didn't notice or ignored it. Now, jobless in his 50s, he was desperate. I stood there, silent, just listening. My mother kept saying things like, "We thought Sarah would do more." And "Her husband's rich, but it's not really hers." And "We always knew you were the dependable one." That last one almost made me chuckle. Dependable? Like a tool left in the shed. Suddenly, I was useful. Dependable. Then came the request. My father finally said it. They needed money. Not a lot, they insisted. Just enough to cover the mortgage for a few months. Maybe pay off some credit card debt. My mother said they had a plan to bounce back. They just needed a little help. I didn't waver. I said no. I told them I wouldn't play along with their delusion. That I wasn't their fallback. And that I didn't appreciate being left out of their real family 1 month, only to be asked for money the next. That's when my father snapped. Not just upset. Yelling, face red. Accusing me of abandoning my kin. Saying things like, "After everything we've given you." It made me wonder if we shared the same memories. My mother tried to calm him, but he kept going. Called me disloyal. Self-centered. Said I'd regret it. Then he said something I couldn't forget. "If your grandmother hadn't turned you against us, maybe you'd know what family means." That's when I told them to go. Not with anger. Just certainty. As I shut the door, I realized something I hadn't fully acknowledged before. I felt nothing. No guilt. No rage. Just a strange calm. But that calm didn't last. The next day, Sarah messaged me. And she had a plan. The text came at 6:14 a.m. Sarah never texted that early. "Hey, can we talk?" No smileys. No flair. That was the first warning. She always used emojis and exclamation marks when she wanted something. I left it unread. I figured it was about the fight with our parents. Maybe she was trying to save her perfect daughter image now that it was cracking. Or maybe she wanted to play peacemaker. Act like the rational one. I waited a few hours. She texted again. Then called. Her voicemail caught my attention. I wasn't ready for what I heard. No fake charm. No, "Hope you're okay." Straight to business. She said she had a way to fix everything. Second warning. When Sarah had plans, someone always paid a price. Usually not her. Usually me. I called back, mostly to hear her pitch. I wanted to know how far she'd go now that their world was falling apart. She picked up instantly. No pleasantries. She jumped in. Said she wanted me to give our parents the money, but make it look like it came from her. Not just the funds, but the glory. She said it would protect her reputation with David's family. Apparently, she'd sold herself as the loyal, generous daughter with thriving parents and a flawless family. She couldn't let it unravel. She offered vague promises of repayment or connections in return. She even suggested introducing me to someone in David's network, as if I'd jump at the chance to mingle with another self-serving opportunist. I asked if she was serious. She said, "I'm just trying to keep us together." That's when I lost it. I told her the family was already broken. That she and our parents had made sure of it. That the family they wanted to save had never included me. I reminded her of the party, the message, the photos she shared while I watched from the outside. Now, weeks later, she expected me to let her play the savior. She didn't even try to justify herself. That was the worst part. She just said, calmly, "You'll come around, Eric." That call stayed with me. Not because I considered helping, but because something clicked. Sarah didn't just think I'd help. She thought I had to. That I still wanted her approval. Some old scar I needed to mend. Maybe I once did. But not anymore. The truth was, I'd been building something real. Quietly. I restored vintage tech, record players, old radios, even arcade machines. It started as a passion, then grew. I built a name for myself. Clients came from across the country. A collector recently offered to buy my stock and fund a proper storefront. I hadn't told anyone. I didn't want Sarah's patronizing, "That's neat." Or my mother's blank look when I explained how a restored 1960s turntable could fetch thousands. They never valued my work. Until they needed it. I thought it was done. Then my grandmother called. Her voice sharper than usual. She said they'd shown up at her house unannounced. Sat in her living room like everything was normal. Talked about me like I was some wayward loner they'd failed to fix. My father even suggested she talk me into helping. that maybe she could pitch in if I wouldn't. Then he implied she owed them. After all, they'd been stuck with the less accomplished child. And hadn't she always preferred me? She threw them out. Told them never to come back. But before hanging up, she said something that lingered. They're not just desperate, Eric. They're resentful. And resentful people do dangerous things. I didn't fixate on it. But 2 nights later, I found a note under my door. No signature. No familiar handwriting. Just, think you're above them now? Don't forget who brought you up. That's when I knew this wasn't about money anymore. It was nearly midnight when I found it. I'd been out picking up a broken 1979 cassette deck from a cellar an hour away. It was pouring rain. I was soaked. I almost overlooked the note. A single page. Folded once. Slipped under the door like an unwanted flyer. No envelope. No handwriting. Just a printed message in bold. Think you're above them now? Don't forget who brought you up. It wasn't the words that shook me. It was that someone had come to my door. My building has a keypad entry. Someone had waited or slipped in behind a resident. I stood there holding the note. It wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. Only 3 people would write that. Sarah, my mother, or my father. Or all 3 together. The irony? The tone was almost civil. No threats. No insults. Just a cold nudge to their warped belief. That because they gave me life, I owed them forever. I didn't call them. I didn't reply. I tucked the note in a drawer with other keepsakes. Sarah's engagement announcement I hadn't thrown out. A holiday card from my parents addressed to Buddy because my name was too much trouble. But after that, I started double-checking my locks. 3 days passed. Quiet. Then, out of nowhere, 5 missed calls from my mother. She never called unless it was a holiday or a tragedy. There was a voicemail. No hello. Just her voice, cold and tired. You're heartless, Eric. You don't know what responsibility means. We're trying to save our home. You've never had a family to care for. You've only ever looked out for yourself. A few $1,000s. That's nothing to someone so accomplished, right? She said, so accomplished, like it was a joke. Like I'd made it up. 30 seconds later, another voicemail. This time from my father. Without us, you'd still be sweeping floors. You think your little repair gig means something? You think you did this on your own? We taught you to work. We gave you everything. And now you act like we're nothing? I didn't finish it. I dropped my phone on the table. Later, out of curiosity, I played it again. Twice. Not because I doubted myself. Because I wanted to hear how far they'd go to rewrite the past. Everything I had, I'd built. The late nights. The struggles. The months in a cramped apartment with humid summers and icy winters. The side jobs. The weekends I skipped outings to fix vintage speakers just to make rent. But none of that mattered to them. In their version, they were heroes. And I was the ungrateful one. Sarah was the star who married wealth. And I was the spare meant to prop them up when their plans failed. That night, Sarah texted me. 5 words. Did you see the note? So it was her. No denial. No explanation. Just confirmation. I replied with 1 word. Yes. A minute later. You're making this bigger than it is. They're your parents. They need help. You're acting like you're the victim. It's just money, Eric. Get over it. I didn't respond. But something changed after that. I stopped expecting them to back off. I stopped hoping silence would make them vanish. The next morning, I found my father by my car. Motionless. Silent. Just waiting. He was there when I walked outside. Just standing. As if he belonged there. As if he hadn't left voicemails calling me a failure or tried to guilt his own mother into fixing his mess. He didn't speak at first. Just nodded. Like this was a casual catch-up. Like we'd talk about cars or the news. Thought we could talk in person, he said. I didn't move. Didn't blink. He went on, like he'd practiced it. Said things were worse than he'd let on. The mortgage wasn't just late. It was close to foreclosure. The bank was hounding them. The credit cards were maxed out, not just theirs. Sarah had let them use one of hers months ago, but had now cut them off completely. David, unsurprisingly, had no interest in bailing them out. We messed up, Dad said. But we were trying to build something better. I looked at him. For who, I asked. He hesitated. Then, predictably, he played the guilt card. Said I was being dramatic. That every family has struggles. That I didn't know what it meant to hold a family together. To keep it going. You think because you've got some cash now, you can look down on us? He said. I didn't raise you like this. I replied evenly. You didn't raise me. You put up with me. You rejected everything about me that wasn't like Sarah. You gave her everything. And now you want to take what I've built for myself. He tried to cut in. I didn't let him. You want money? Ask Sarah. Ask David. Ask the family you were proud to celebrate. The ones you toasted with wine while laughing at my absence. His face reddened. That was a mistake, he muttered. Really? I said. You posted, this is a gathering for our real family. He had no answer. He looked away, like he was searching for a new excuse. Then he said, so that's it? You'll let your parents sink? I met his eyes. They are not my burden. That was the breaking point. He lost it. Screamed in the parking lot. Called me ungrateful. Said he should have never supported me. That I was nothing without them. That I'd regret it. You'll die alone, Eric. You think money will fill the void? When we're gone, who'll be left? Sarah? She doesn't even care about you. You'll die bitter. I didn't respond. I got in my car and drove off. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel liberated. I felt finished. But I knew them. My parents didn't lose gracefully. When cut off, they didn't back down. They plotted. And I was right. 5 days later, my business account was frozen. Someone had falsely reported me for fraud. An anonymous tip. The worst part? They used my grandmother's name. It started with a locked account. I was packing a Restored Technics turntable for a buyer in Ohio when I got the alert. Account under review. Immediate action required. At first, I thought it was a phishing scam. But when I logged in, my funds were inaccessible. Transactions stopped. The claim accused me of selling fake products, misleading clients, taking payments, and shipping faulty goods. The kind of accusation that could destroy a small business. My stomach dropped. Not from panic. From disbelief. I called the bank's fraud team. Explained everything. I sent receipts. Client reviews. Serial numbers. Photos. Invoices. Everything short of my birth certificate. The agent was understanding. She'd resolve it within 2 days. Before hanging up, she said something unexpected. The person who filed the complaint identified herself as Eleanor Whitman. I froze. Eleanor Whitman? Yes, she said. She claimed to be a customer and your grandmother. I thanked her and hung up. I sat in silence. Not angry. Just drained, like touching a wound you thought had healed. My grandmother couldn't even use a smartphone. She had a basic phone. She thought Wi-Fi was a health trend. There was no way she'd filed an online fraud report. But 3 people could have done it in her name. 2 had called me a failure days earlier. The 3rd had tried to trick me into giving her credit for money she didn't have. I didn't call Sarah. I didn't text my parents. I went straight to Grandma's house. She was in her garden, tending flowers like nothing was wrong. I told her what the bank said. Her hands kept moving. I knew they'd pull something like this, she said. Your father stopped by 2 days ago. He left furious when I wouldn't convince you to help. I sat with her. She'd already contacted the bank, left a message denying the fraud claim, and confirmed she'd never filed anything. She didn't ask. She just acted. They're trying to wound you now, she said plainly. Because they can't control you. That night, I typed one last message in the group chat. My parents, Sarah, the thread where they'd shared family photos, event invites I wasn't meant to see, party pictures captioned, finally, all of us together. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I wrote, I know one of you used Grandma's name to sabotage my business. I don't care who. I'm done. Don't contact me again. Don't ask for anything. Don't pretend we're family. You made it clear what I was to you. I believed you. Now, believe me. No one responded. I blocked all 3, changed my number a week later, deleted the chat. I even upgraded my apartment's security after my father lingered outside, staring at the building before driving off. Sarah tried reaching out on LinkedIn 2 weeks later. I ignored her. She messaged, "I don't understand why you're so upset. Families go through hard times. You need to rise above it." I blocked her there too. From what Grandma hears, they're still in that house. My father took a part-time job, but no one wants a man with his attitude. My mother sells herbal supplements online. Sarah and David moved to Arizona, likely to dodge their tarnished image. Meanwhile, I grew. Rented a proper workshop with storage. Orders keep rolling in. A buyer in Washington just paid $5,000 for a restored reel-to-reel. Grandma visits on Sundays. We make sandwiches and play old records. She never brings up my parents. Neither do I. The silence is easy. I used to think I needed resolution, that an apology or acknowledgement would mend things. Turns out I didn't. I just needed space. And now? Now I rest like I've earned it.